I just put up a video about cigars and relapsing to cigarettes, and I had mentioned that I was going to make a video specific to oral tobacco use. So this is that video. Now, I want to point out that oral tobacco use, I guess I should point out what prompted this. A member of the Freedom from Nicotine Board had posted that he was still smoke-free, but he had, how do you say it, he had a cigar around Christmas and a few others since then, but he didn't inhale, so he didn't think, that he was really a smoker and that everything was fine. Well, as far as the Freedom from Nicotine site, that constituted the first one he took, the first puff he took, constituted as losing membership. So that was just an immediate consequence of that. But the way he described the reason he didn't think it counted was because he didn't inhale, and it just was brought in through his mouth. And so his perception was that you really can't go back to smoking by just absorbing nicotine through your mouth. Well, this video is going to be on oral tobacco use and how strong the dependency is that you can get by straight, the only way using it is absorbing it through your mouth. In I think it was 93. It was early 90s. I think it was 1993. I was asked to do a program at a Catholic all-boys school that I had done numerous years prior to this, to come to a program, assembly programs. Actually, there were several programs that day about the dangers of smoking. This time when they called me up, though, they said, "Can you talk about oral tobacco use?" And I said, "Oh, sure." I realized I hadn't done it before, and I said, "Yeah, they have an oral tobacco issue there." And I didn't know that. If they had said it before, I would have done a little bit more about that in the past, but I didn't. And so I brought a few extra slides, talking about the health implications of oral tobacco. When I did the program, it was the same as all the other programs I'd done prior at the school, and I put in a few extra slides on oral tobacco, and then I opened up for questions and answers. And I was actually thinking I was probably going to hear something about oral tobacco use because, of this call that prompted all this. Well, I didn't get any questions from the students about oral tobacco. What I did, though, get, which was a little bit atypical for this particular school, was I had a lot of questions from kids wanting to quit smoking, which I don't remember that happening in the prior years. Kids who were saying they were really pretty heavy smokers and they needed to quit. And I spent quite a bit of time, answering those questions, and nothing got said about oral tobacco. It wasn't until after everybody had left, or most people had left, and a few kids had hung around and came up to me and said, that they're in the process of trying to quit now. They've been trying to quit for several weeks and they can't, and they were real heavy smokers. And I asked, "Well, how much are you smoking?" And they were young. They weren't like the seniors in the school. And one of them said, well, he was smoking almost 2 packs a day now. And the other kid said he was over a pack and a half, somewhere in there. Well, that was kind of surprising to me. I had programs where I had kids in high school who were smoking a pack or 2 packs a day, but that wasn't typical. Usually, kids start out slowly. They may start out in junior high, and in the beginning they're smoking a few a day, and then they get up to, half a pack at some point. It may take years before they get to a pack and 2 packs a day. But here I had two standing in front of me who said they were smoking, one a 2 pack a day smoker and the other one, pack and a half. And I asked them, "Well, how long have you been smoking?" And they both said, "Well, it was a matter of weeks now." Well, I was kind of stunned at this. I thought maybe I was mysterious. I said, what do you mean?" They said, "Yeah, they took up smoking for the first time. They took up smoking a matter of weeks ago." And at first I thought they were joking, but I saw they were sincere. These people, these two kids, wanted to quit smoking, were very heavy smokers, and were only smoking for a couple of weeks. And it took me a few minutes to figure out exactly what occurred there. And actually another faculty had come by and was starting to hear some of this conversation. And I remember it was the person who had called me about it, talking about oral tobacco. And I asked him, how come he happened to place that call about the oral tobacco? And he said, well, we've always had a big problem with chewers. They felt it was always bigger than the number of smokers they had. They never told me about it. And again, it never came up in the question and answer period, so I didn't know. And the kids now say, yeah, they were big chewers of tobacco. And what happened now was this was an all-boys school that was in the process of merging with a Catholic girls' school that was also down the block from them. These two schools are coming together. Some of the girls were already coming in for some classes, but they weren't there full time yet. There was going to be kind of this, merger where a lot of girls were coming in, and it was going to pose a problem. It was already starting to manifest by the girls who were coming in for a few classes, where they were really complaining to administration that the school was disgusting. The way it was disgusting was there was spit all over the grounds. There was spit, there was sputum in the water fountains with brown stains and brown, gunk all over the place. And what the issue was, this was always going on, but no one really made that big of an issue about it in the past. They kind of accepted it. They had a big chewing problem. But when the girls were coming in, they were aghast about this. So the administration was now under pressure, and they were trying to crack down on getting the boys not to chew tobacco at the school. Not only was the administration cracking down, but the boys themselves were facing a new pressure. They were facing pressure from the girls coming into school who thought that they were the most disgusting boys in the school, the ones who were chewing. There were a lot of them, that this was a disgusting habit and the girls wanted nothing to do with them. Well, this was a problem to the boys, and they wanted out of chewing. And they figured, it sounded logical, they went to smoking. Now here's where this becomes important. Going back to this original issue that was going on. The man who thought, well, he was only puffing on a cigar. It wasn't like he was inhaling into his lung. The tolerance that these boys established to nicotine was stronger than the tolerance that most people who took up smoking at the same time they did. They weren't using oral tobacco any longer or, significantly longer than boys who were smoking. But boys who started smoking at the same time they did not have the level of tolerance where they were now smoking a pack or 2 packs a day that these boys had. It seemed that by chewing tobacco, and again, it's nowhere near the lung, but by chewing tobacco, they had established such a level of tolerance that when they went to smoking, they immediately went to levels that were higher than cigarette smokers would have been who had been doing it the same time period. It shows very clearly how you could absorb nicotine through the oral mucosa, and how that, in those boys' cases, how that usage of chewing tobacco formed a full-blown drug dependency that was as strong, if not stronger, than cigarette smoking is. Well, if it can do that to a person who is first starting to use, understand what it's going to do to a person who's been off smoking for a week or a month or a year or 20 years, whatever time period. If they put oral tobacco in their mouth, they're going to absorb enough nicotine to put them back to smoking. It's the same issue that we're fighting with when we're dealing with cigarettes. It's the same issue we're basically dealing with if someone were to throw a patch or take a nicotine gum after they'd stopped smoking. They're going to absorb nicotine through whatever route this thing was delivering. Again, I always talk about this in clinic. If you can put it into a needle and inject it into a vein, if you can mainline it, it's going to put a person back to either daily mainlining or back to smoking. And since smoking is the easier route to go, that's what's going to end up being the consequence. They're going to end up smoking again. So I'm just using this video, though, to discuss how any form of tobacco put into your mouth can very easily result in a drug relapse, but also to be a little bit clear here about the addictive nature of chewing tobacco. For kids who are thinking of taking this up as, somehow they won't get addicted to it. It's safer than smoking. You can't get as addicted. It's a very false premise. You can get addicted to chewing tobacco, and it looks like in many ways you will get more addicted faster than even people who are using cigarettes. And as far as safer, it's dangerous on 2 fronts. One is just the fact that it increases your chance of oral cancers, and very high rates of oral cancers, and to having teeth problems and gum problems, and I mean serious issues that can cost them their life when, again, cancer comes into the fray. But then the other issue is it establishes a dependency to nicotine that when it comes to a point in their life where they're going into a workforce or going into positions where they're no longer able to chew at the same comfort level that they were doing when they were in this environment that somehow chewing was acceptable, that they were still doing it, that at that point in time they may very well transfer that dependency to the logical source that it happens to a lot of people, the cigarettes. And then they're dealing with the full problem of being cigarette smokers and the health implications of that. The health implications being that it ends up killing 1 out of 2 people who do it. And even those who it doesn't kill, it makes them a lot sicker over their lifetime. This holds true again now for any form of nicotine use. If you want to stay free from cigarettes, if you've been a smoker and you want to quit or you want to avoid ever turning into one, it's a matter of avoiding all forms of nicotine being absorbed into your body. And as far as cigarettes go, just being able to stay free, it's still just a matter of sticking to your personal commitment to never take another puff.